Since our last topic had ended with music, I'd like to discuss actual African artifacts. So today we're going to talk about Mazulu Diabanza. Mazulu is basically a Congolese man. He's 42 this year. He's known as the African restitution activist. So an African restitution activist is a person who wants the artifacts and materials from African civilization returned. So we have a lot of artwork inside museums that are a reflection of our native selves. We don't even own them. They were stolen from us during colonization. He believes in active diplomacy when you understand this. Active diplomacy means going into these museums and taking back what was stolen from us, rehoming our artifacts. So there was an article in The Guardian that basically talked about how Mazulu had took artifacts from various European museums. He took African artifacts from various European museums and wanted to rehome them. But he was arrested and fined multiple times, but he keeps doing it. And the article in The Guardian is titled, "We Want Our Riches Back. The African Activist Taking Treasures from Europe's Museums." So Mazulu considers himself a Pan-African leader, and that's exactly what he is. He has an organization called Yankanuku. So Yankanuku, it can clearly translate to unity, dignity, and courage. His mission is to recover all stolen works of art and culture that was taken from Africa and returned to Europe. I think his mission is great, but what he's also missing is that the America, specifically the United States, have stolen material from Africa as well. Even in my city, Houston, we have a zoo, and part of the zoo is dedicated to Africa. We have stolen life here as well, but that's another story. So last June, when France was in and out of a lockdown, he basically entered this Paris museum, and this museum has over 700,000 objects from Africa. And he said, "We're taking them home." He took one thing, or a couple of things were taken. He was arrested before he could really keep them, and he was found not guilty in court because in reality he wasn't a thief. He was returning his artifacts home. So technically it wasn't theft, it was more so a political act. So a lot of museums in Europe had got word on how Mazulu was doing. So they basically had to come out with some type of statement. And one of the British museums basically said, "We need to have dialogue with our African partners about our spoils of war." Because technically that's what they looked at it as. They looked at them dehumanizing us as a form of war. And it's real interesting because the products that they have stolen from us, which is our heritage, our legacy, and our culture, they call it spoils of war. And France alone has over 100,000 African objects that needs to be rehomed. So this man is very diplomatic with his political ideologies. He started this movement called FMAS, which is the Front Multicultural Anti-Exploitation, or Multicultural Front Against Pillaging. And it basically is an organization or a campaign that reunites people around the world who have been robbed of their heritage. He wants us to get together and to take all of our artifacts out of these European and out of these American museums. I'm saying American because I believe that it's more than just Europe, it's America. And I gave my example about the zoo, but we all know about the museums in America that have African art, Native American art, and art from all indigenous people around the world, because that's what these type of museums do. So he basically wants us to collect our artifacts from these different museums, and he wants us to bring it back home, bring it back to our people so we can understand our heritage. We can understand what spiritual power our ancestors had and try to reawaken that in us so that our children can have that, and so that our future population can continue the legacy of having those traditions and appreciating our heritage. So he basically wants people who belong to the Native Americans, Aborigines of and indigenous people of the Philippines, Indonesia, Peru, all over. He wants everyone to get their indigenous artifacts back. And he had to be mentioned in arts because a lot of Americans and English speaking people don't know who he is, because he is Congolese and France is the one who currently has the Congolese on their financial string and their language string. So he speak French, and usually in America we only speak American, aka English. So we don't have access to other populations who speak different languages. And I want us to recognize who this man is because he's probably a legend to Francophone folks, but he's no one to Anglophone folks. So for my Anglophone community, I want you to know that there's a Mwazulu Diyabanza out there who's making sure that our artifacts are rehomed to us. Or should I say rehomed for us?